Buckle up, it's about to get bumpy, the truth about ride sharing in Australia. Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving headfirst into the gig economy, specifically the murky waters of ride sharing in Australia. Now you might have heard the siren song of companies like Uber promising easy money and flexible hours. But here's the thing about sirens. They lure you in with promises of treasure, only to leave you stranded on the rocks of reality. Because the truth is, rideshare driving in Australia might not be the golden ticket to financial freedom it's cracked up to be. No holiday pay, no worries. The myth of the independent contractor. Let's start with the biggie, your employment status. See, rideshare companies classify drivers as independent contractors. Sounds fancy, doesn't it? Almost entrepreneurial. Except this classification magically makes basic worker rights disappear. We're talking about things like sick leave and holiday pay. And don't even get me started on job security. As an independent contractor, you're at the mercy of algorithms and the whims of app developers. United we stand, divided we drive, the lack of driver representation. Now, you might be thinking, surely there's a union or some organization looking out for rideshare drivers, and you'd be right, there are a few. But let's just say they're about as effective as a chocolate fireguard in a heatwave. Take, for instance, the Rideshare Drivers Association of Australia. Sounds official, right? Almost intimidating. The sad reality is rideshare drivers in Australia are fragmented, lacking a unified voice to fight for their rights. The closing loopholes. Bill a band-aid on a bullet wound. Now, in the interest of fairness, there has been some talk about improving conditions for gig workers, including the introduction of the Closing Loopholes Bill. Sounds promising, right? Like finally someone's paying attention. But if you look closely, you'll notice this bill is less about closing loopholes and more about gently suggesting they maybe consider using a slightly smaller loophole next time. It's like putting a tiny caution hot sticker on a dumpster fire. Look, I'm all for flexibility, but not at the expense of basic worker rights and a living wage. So let's talk about the actual work itself, shall we? Because accepting a fare as a rideshare driver can feel a bit like playing roulette. You're never quite sure what you're going to get, and more often than not, the house wins. Unlike traditional taxis, where you have a rough idea of the fare and destination, rideshare companies like Uber keep drivers in the dark. You might accept a job thinking it's a quick trip to the shops, only to find yourself driving halfway across the state for a grand total of $6. And that's before those pesky deductions rear their ugly heads. GST, income tax, superannuation, all chipping away at your hard-earned, or should I say barely earned, income. It's enough to make you wonder if you wouldn't be better off financially just setting up a lemonade stand outside your house. Now let's talk about something no one wants to think about, your health. Because spending hours hunched over the wheel, navigating traffic and dodging questionable driving decisions can take a toll on your body. We're talking about things like soft tissue injuries, back problems and whiplash. But these are occupational hazards for rideshare drivers, and often they're overlooked until it's too late. So, before you decide to become a rideshare driver, ask yourself this: is sacrificing your long-term health really worth it for the short-term illusion of flexibility and a few extra bucks? Now, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, lawsuits. Because as a rideshare driver, you're not just navigating traffic, you're navigating a legal minefield. One wrong move, one disgruntled passenger, and you could find yourself on the receiving end of a lawsuit that could wipe out years of earnings. And the best part? You're on your own. Remember that whole independent contractor thing? Yeah, that means you're responsible for your own legal fees, so you could be completely in the right. But if you can't afford to fight a lawsuit, you might as well kiss your savings, your car, and possibly your firstborn child goodbye. Double standards, on wheels, the injustice of rideshare fines. Now, you might think that driving for a living means you're held to the same standards as any other driver on the road, and you'd be wrong, because apparently, when you slap a rideshare sticker on your car, the rules of the road magically become 4 times more expensive. It's like being stuck in a game of double dutch, except the ropes are made of red tape, and every time you trip up, you owe the government a small fortune. The case of Ali, when being a victim isn't enough. Don't just take my word for it. Let's look at a real-life example of the injustices faced by rideshare drivers in Australia. Back in 2017, an Uber driver in Melbourne named Ali found himself in a situation that perfectly illustrates the precarity of this line of work. Ali picked up a passenger who, let's just say, had enjoyed a few too many beverages and was feeling a bit worse for wear. Despite being punched in the face, Ali was slapped with a $900 fine and lost his license for failing to ensure the passenger wore a seatbelt and for carrying an intoxicated passenger. You can read more about this egregious miscarriage of justice at this link. Lifting more than just spirits, the unseen physical tolls. Let's talk about another hidden cost of ride-sharing, the physical toll it can take. Now, I'm not just talking about the repetitive strain injuries from constantly gripping the steering wheel. I'm talking about the back-breaking, hernia-inducing reality of helping passengers with their luggage. Many rideshare drivers, particularly migrant workers and international students, go above and beyond for their passengers. But if you injure yourself while performing these acts of service, you're on your own. The $6 question, is ride-sharing really worth it? So, let's cut to the chase, shall we? Is picking up a passenger for a 20-minute drive only to earn a measly $6 after expenses a sound business strategy? Is it a sustainable way to make a living? Is it even remotely fair? The answer, my friends, is a resounding no. When you factor in the costs, the risks, the lack of rights and the sheer exploitation that runs rampant in the gig economy, ride-sharing starts to look less like a dream job and more like a nightmare you can't seem to wake up from. It's time to stop romanticizing the gig economy and start demanding better for the people who power it. No more free rides, ending the exploitation of vulnerable drivers. The truth is, the gig economy, particularly the ride-sharing industry, thrives on the exploitation of vulnerable workers. Migrant workers, international students, people desperate for work and unaware of their rights. They are the backbone of this industry, and they are being taken advantage of. These companies dangle the carrot of flexibility and easy money. But what they don't tell you is that the carrot is rotten and the stick they use to beat you down is made of broken promises and systemic injustice. It's time to demand better for rideshare drivers, for gig workers, for all workers. Ultra, don't be taken for a ride. Know your rights demand better. So before you take the plunge into the world of ride-sharing, I implore you to weigh the costs and the risks carefully. Get informed, know your rights, and don't be afraid to demand better. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content.